If you are on a fat loss journey, a hormone health journey, your macros stop working. So what the fuck to do next? Let me get right into it. Okay, so let's go over, because a lot of you out there I talk to, you don't know what macros are. So I'm going to give it a 1,000-foot review. I'm going to go through how it was like discovered. I'm going to go into some IIFYM. And some other stuff. So macros. Protein. We got carbs and we got fats. So macros, macronutrients. Macros are also known as macronutrients. It's a long term. We just abbreviate it because we're lazy. It's an umbrella term, right? Under macros, we have protein and we have carbohydrates and we have fats. Macros, macronutrients, are different than micronutrients. Micronutrients would be like sodium, potassium, magnesium, etc. Right? Two different categories, still under the umbrella of food, okay? When we're looking at macronutrients, we're typically talking in grams or percentages. So a lot of people are like, oh, I'm on a 40-40-30 split. That would be 40% protein, 40% carbohydrates, 30% fat. When people are talking more in grams, they're talking about specific grams of protein, specific grams of carbs, specific grams of fats. Now, each gram equals a certain amount of calories. For example, if you have 1 gram of fat, that equals 9 calories. For protein and carbs, you have 4 calories. So if you have 10 grams of protein, that would be 40 calories. So your macronutrients, the grams, will add up to the total calories. So that's why it's important when you are tracking macros, you really don't need to look at the calories too much. Because if you're hitting the macros, you're hitting the calories, right? Now, we can get into net carbs, we can get other stuff, but that's kind of the 1,000-foot overview on what macros are, macronutrients. So, why those are important for you. Hormonally, there are different partitionings, right, in terms of like the percentages, but also different partitionings in terms of the totals, the calories, that are going to work best for your specific hormonal imbalances. You know, cortisol dysfunction. We got excess estrogen. We have low progesterone estrogen, which is actually menopause, right? We have a lot of dysfunctions that we can actually match up the macronutrients to the actual hormonal profile, right? So macros are very important. The one part of 10 different things that are important. I think if you're looking at these fucking influencers that are just like, oh, macros, or just calorie deficit, or you don't need macros, you just need to focus on the clean foods, like, you know, fuck seed oil guy, like whatever it is, like if you're listening to an influencer that's just like, I'm this person, like that's my boxed in version of whatever, you're dead in the water. There's 10 different components you need to look at that are not just macros, but macros are important, and I would say in the hierarchy, they're probably number 3, right, behind hormone optimization, behind recovery, okay? So in terms of like all this stuff, right, when your macros stop working, when you start seeing a actual fat loss plateau, now how do you measure a plateau? I always talk to my clients and I say, get your scale at weight every single day. Like, oh, I have a bad relationship with the scale. Well, you have a bad relationship with the scale because you're not looking at the scale the right way. You're looking at your daily wins based on that number. Your wins should never be based on that number. Your wins should always be based on whether you weighed yourself or not, the habit, not the outcome. Because you're, as a woman, going to fluctuate every fucking day, right? And if you're fluctuating every single fucking day, that's not giving you a good picture of actually what is going on. So I have my clients measure themselves every single day for A, to disconnect from the actual outcome, to desensitize themselves, like exposure therapy. The other reason is because we don't even care what those numbers are day to day. Like, yeah, it'll tell us like if you had fucking sushi last night and you got super bloated. But what we want is actually to take the average from week to week, and that will give us a clear picture. And everyone's like, oh, it doesn't matter about scale weight. Like, muscle weighs more than fat. Do you know how fucking long it takes to build a pound of muscle? It takes 1 year. 1 year to build 3 pounds of muscle for a woman that is in either calorie maintenance or surplus, and actually like a more advanced lifter, and obviously natural, like not on testosterone or anything like that. It takes a long fucking time. You know how long it takes to lose a pound of muscle? Like half a week. Or sorry, You know how long it takes to lose a pound of fat? Like half a week. You can lose fat so fast. Muscle takes a very long fucking time to build. So when I hear that all the time, oh, it doesn't matter, like, I don't care what the scale says, it does matter. Because the scale is going to be reflective of what is going on with your fat, right? It is. Like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry to tell you. I'm sorry to tell, like, your trainer this. I'm sorry to tell you that, like, all these conceptions on scale weight matters. It does, okay? So when your macros stop working, when you see that average and you're getting it every single week and you're not seeing any movement on the scale, you're not losing, ideally, very conservative rate would be like 1% of your body weight per week that you should be losing. And if you're not losing that, then it's like, okay, let's start looking into adjustments, right? Now, there's two types of plateaus. There's what's called a physiological plateau, which is like you're doing everything in your power and you're not seeing results, like you're hitting your macros perfectly. And then there's the adherence plateau, where you're plateaued because you're just not sticking to your macros. Both will have very different ways of actually approaching it, right? And the old school calorie deficit influencer will be like, oh, just take your calories down and like increase your activity. It's like, dude, no, that's not it. That ain't it, right? So if you are on hormone aligned macros, right, and let's say you have a normal cycle, now you should have two different sets of macros for each phase of your cycle. So follicular right after you have your period, and then right before you get your period, the 2 weeks, right? You should have different macros for that. And if you don't, that's where you want to start first, okay? Having those two separate macro sets, okay? Now, the other place you want to start is if you are having a physiological plateau where you've been stuck for basically, I would say 3 to 5 weeks, like just stuck, not losing 1% or not losing as much as you should, or even worse, gaining or not, you would want to adjust the carbs and fats. Now, if you are menopause, your protein should already be at 0.8 to 1.1 grams per pound of body weight. If you are not menopausal, you can get away with like 0.6 to 1.1. So that number is going to stay constant. What you want to adjust is going to be the carbs and the fat ratio, right? And then from there, if you are still like hitting plateau, and you've adjusted and you've taken your carbs down, you don't want to go into VLCD or a low carb. VLCD is typically like 50 or 60 grams of carbohydrates per day. Keto would be under 30 grams. You're peeing on the keto sticks. You're on ketosis. You don't want to go that low. But if you keep adjusting your carbohydrates down, and that's what you want to do, that's like kind of the first thing because typically it's insulin resistance that's really blocking that fat loss. If you keep taking it down, nothing's happening. It is probably time for a reverse diet. Unless you're like looking at your output, your how much you're burning per day, like your total daily energy expenditure in terms of the calories you're burning. That's everything from like your BMR to your activity to like everything. Now, and then you would see like the actual intake. And if your calories are like at 2,000 calories and you're a woman that's, 125 pounds, well, you're probably fucking just eating too much, right? So you would want to adjust all the macros down. If they're already down, you're already in a deficit, then you would start looking at carbs and fats, take those carbs down. If this doesn't work, then it is probably time for a reverse diet because your metabolism is just very down-regulated. Maybe your HRV score is off too. You definitely want to look at your HRV. If you're nailing your macros, that's another place. Definitely look at your HRV because if your HRV is not there, you're not recovering that fat oxidation, fat mobilization, your metabolism, everything's just not going to work well, okay? So that's going to be, it's so funny when I talk about this shit, like no one cares. Like no one cares about macros. Everyone just wants to talk about supplements and alcohol, and I get it. I get it, guys, but this is the shit that's going to get you results. So if you want to get results, watch this. So that's going to be that part of it, right? So we kind of adjust, okay, we want to look at HRV. Obviously, you want to look at your hormones. So if your macros stop working, like you want to make sure you're getting a hormonal assessment. I'm not a big fan on blood work. You can do that. You can go that route. But I would just say, what up, Los? You would want to just actually, instead of that, get an assessment for a symptom base. So if you don't have that, by the way, DM me. I'll send you my hormone imbalance checklist. It's just basically, there's like 10 to 30 different symptoms for each imbalance that are specific to that, and you can kind of see where you're at. So that's the first two places you want to check your HRV for your recovery, because I went through the fat loss hierarchy. Number 2 is going to be recovery, and number 1, you would want to check your hormones, get that assessment done, and kind of see what's going on. If everything's still aligned, you're good, you're still in your deficit, then you would start wanting to go through a reverse diet and actually look at that because your metabolism is just very down-regulated, right? So sometimes we will take our clients through reverse diets in the middle of their actual fat loss phase because they've hit a plateau. So what we do, boom, 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 increase food slowly. What I like to do, and everyone says, oh, just eat more. And like a lot of reverse dieting experts out there are fucking idiots because they'll just be like, oh yeah, I just punched her up 100, punched her up 100, punched her up 100 each week. It's like, whoa, did you like see what was going on with her body composition at this time? Because if you're not actually getting the inputs like of her weight and her body fat weekly, why would you punch them up, right? You want to make sure that as long as you're not going up, I would say 0.2 pounds on average of weight, then you could push your food up 50 to 100 calories. And you could be more aggressive too on the 150 calories per week if you are losing more, right? So if you're punching food up, maybe 1 week you went up 100, and that week you actually netted a loss of like a pound and a half, then you can be more aggressive, 150, 200 calories, and you can pump it up that way. What up, Corey E. Weiss? And so, yeah, and I'll go through that with the hot flashes too. Yeah, I'll go through that for sure. So that's kind of where you'd want to look. Now, behaviorally, if you are blowing your macros, you know what a little boo-boo is. I don't know does anyone know what a little boo-boo is? I've heard of it. I think it's a kid's toy. Let me know if you guys know what a little boo-boo is. I want to hear it from you all. So the other part is the behavioral standpoint, right? So we're looking at you can't stick to your actual macros, your protein, your carb, and your fat. What typically we're looking for is like a 10% deviation. So if you, you get hot flashes for sure. On a behavioral standpoint, and you can't actually stick with those macros within a 10%, actually net. So for example, maybe you say your carbs are at 100%, at 100 grams, and you're going 85, you're going 115, then you'd be out of range. So that's the first place you'd look at, am I having an adherence plateau? Can I actually not stick with my macros? Now, some of that could be planning, some of that could just be actually like laying out your macros ahead of time, making sure like it's just a structural thing. Like you get to the end of your day and you're like, how am I going to have 100 grams of protein right there? So I would say for that person, you would want to pre-log your food ahead of time, like pre-enter it, just so you can get an idea of like what you should be eating throughout the day, so you can hit that number. Now, sometimes it's like people know how to hit their macros, they know how to manipulate everything, but they just end up at the end of the day stress eating, blowing it out of the water, just saying fuck it, getting drunk, like whatever it is, right? There's some reason at the end of the day. A lot of times what happens is clients have been tracking macros for so long that they'll actually just go, they will have no conception of internal feedback on food. They're just depending on this external food logging instead of their internal hunger and fullness cues, right? And so that would kind of be an opportunity for us to really dive into more of an intuitive style eating. And that's why I am a fan of fasting for some women, because it really shows us what true physiological hunger looks like and not psychological hunger. Because you should let your hunger build throughout the day and then eat. Like you shouldn't just be eating to eat. And if you're finding yourself eating to eat to hit your macros, that might be a good time to take a step back and actually go through more of an intuitive process so you can kind of reconnect with that. I mean, it sounds a little woo-woo, but like, if you're eating just to eat, just to hit your macros, like you're kind of dissociating yourself from that internal and then external. And that's not a cue for, that's not a recipe for success long-term, because once you get off macros and like, you're again just eating to eat, well, you're not really going to be eating because you're hungry. So it sounds like very stupid and very simple, but so many so many people just kind of lose that. So I would say, like, if you're in that and if you tend to comfort eat or overeat or whatever it is, let your hunger build up and really focus on building up the food as much as you can. Building up your hunger as much as you can, and then eat then, right? And then stop when you're full. No, not a stupid question at all. Pappy Gale. That's a really good question. You know what? If you ever think you have a stupid question, you don't. Because ask it. Because I had gotten so many calls with so many women that are like, I don't know anything about macros. And guys, this is the time to ask. Like, I'm here giving all my advice. Okay, so any advice for menopausal women dieting to help with weight gain and hot flashes? I would say set your macro. Like, if you're not doing macros, I'd obviously need to know more about you. MLD Haunt. I think I pronounced that right. Then you would want to set your macros, because a lot of times, like, the thing that's going to make your hot flashes worse and your weight gain worse is your nutrition, right? And if you're eating a lot of like processed, just kind of shit foods, that's going to contribute to it. You're creating more inflammation in your body. If you're eating in a calorie surplus, that's obviously going to contribute to it. If you're not adjusting your food to the decrease in metabolism you are having, that's going to affect things. So I'd say, first of all, start tracking your macros. Like, get on 0.8 to 1.1 grams per pound of body weight. That 0.6 to 1.1 that's not for you anymore if you're in menopause. And then from there, you would want to set your carbs and your fats. I would say, rule of thumb, you could probably set your carbs a little bit higher to offset any insulin resistance you would have. So I'd say set your fats at 35%, a little bit higher, so you can actually get that insulin sensitivity a lot higher. So that'd be where I would start from that. And then you can adjust your food week to week based on the gain. Let's see, I had another question. So, probably a stupid question, how to determine macros. Yeah, so you would determine your macros. I mean, I'm not a huge fan on the calculators, to be honest with you. What I would do, Pappy Gale, if you're just starting on this, DM me macro tracking. I'll send you like a free guide that goes exactly onto like how to actually do it. But in terms of the determinants, it depends. Are you menopausal or not? If you're menopausal, yeah, I'd go off what I was just saying there. I would set your protein at 0.8 to 1.1 grams per pound of body weight. So let's just say 1 gram per pound of body weight is like you're a 150-pound woman, 150 grams of protein per day. And then you would set your carbs and fats around that. So I would set the fats at 35%, a little bit higher, just so you can kind of bring those carbohydrates down. Now you're probably thinking like, how much actual food should I be eating? What I would do before you actually set your macros is take a week and just don't stuff, don't starve, right? Eat how you normally eat, track everything, really surgically precise, get a good food scale, and just like don't stuff, don't starve, weigh yourself every single day. And what you're going to do from there is you can see, okay, is my weight trending up? Is it trending down? Is it staying the same? If it's staying the same, you're probably at like a good level of like where you can start of what your calorie intake. If you're losing like really fast, you'd probably want to eat a little bit more, but you would want to get your average food for the week, right? So you'd want to basically sum up the entire week of the calories, divide it by 7 so you can get how many calories average you are a day, and that's how you can set your calories and your macros, okay? I'm on estrogen patch and progesterone pill. Is there a holistic formulation? I'm so bloated. I would, so I don't know if you're talking about replacing HRT or if you're like talking about a way to decrease the bloat, because you can do the latter one, the bloating, but I would talk to your doctor. You might just need to adjust it because that is pretty common. But yeah, I mean, there's not like a huge, yeah, not a stupid question at all. Not a huge, like a actual real replacement. Like nothing's going to replace estrogen and progesterone. Unfortunately, you can get things. Yeah, you're welcome, Poppy. Yeah, 162 for 4 months now. But yeah, I would say like I've gone through reels where I went through like really good supplements that will help, really increase progesterone and estrogen naturally, and also will help you with a lot of the different symptoms that you might be feeling from menopause. You're 162. Yeah, so I would say I would start low, Poppy Gale. I would start low. I'd start at 0.8. So if you're at 160, I would just do 160 times 0.8. Yeah, so you start at like 128 grams of protein per day. But yeah, I would take that week before you even set your macros to see how much you are eating and just get a really good food scale, get the paid version of MyFitnessPal so you can get used to barcoding. It should be good to go. So I hope this is helpful, guys. Really good questions. I love the interaction. So I got to hop off onto a call. But this is like, I like talking about alcohol. I like talking about supplements. It's Jerry. What's up, Jerry? But yeah, so is this something you can send me for HRT ladder? HRT ladder? I'm not sure what the ladder is. But yeah, I think macros is what's going to get you results, right? Alcohol and supplements, like, it's cool to talk about, and it does matter. It all matters, but I would say like the hierarchy, like it matters. It's down here somewhere. Something you can send me for HRT. So there's a reel, S.E. Gonzal, that I posted a while ago on just different supplements that help mimic the HRT. But nothing's actually going to give you the same effect as like going on actual exogenous estrogen, progesterone. I would honestly just go talk to your doctor about adjusting it, because you just might need adjustment. And I would just talk to them too and be like, hey, I'm getting massive bloating. Because usually there's like, oh, I can just adjust this or add this in or take that out, and it just makes it a lot easier to do it. But I think the bloating you're getting is actually from the estrogen. That's not uncommon. All right. Love y'all. Bye, Jerry.